Hello, everybody. This is one unscripted utopia crossing the T. I'm going to try and keep this as short and factual as possible. This is the sixth hearing review and recap. I have been asked by people who think I have something worthwhile to say to make my videos a little shorter, so I'm going to try and do that. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the sixth hearing, which was uh, just, if that didn't blow your mind, I'm not sure what will, if anything will. So, just to uh, let you know, I am going scripted today because I didn't want to miss anything with what Cassidy Hutchinson said. I want you to think about a couple of things as we go through these facts, as pointed out by Cassidy Hutchinson. That we're looking for criminal intent. Criminal intent isn't something that, the criminal is going to come out and tell you unless they're pleading guilty. They're going to find every way they can to say that they didn't do it if they're trying to escape liability. So criminal intent is proven by showing actions, words, and circumstances surrounding the person in question, in this case, Donald Trump and Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani. What was their state of mind? What were they saying? What were their actions? Were they in furtherance of these what they were saying, and if they were in furtherance of the seditious conspiracy to overthrow our government. So one of the things that we look for is knowledge of forethought, that they knew something was coming before anybody else, which means that they were aware of something happening before that, before January 6th, that they knew that January 6th was going to be what we saw happen, or much worse. So let's dive into it. Ms. Hutchinson starts out by saying that Rudy Giuliani told her sometime before January 6th, Cass, are you excited about the 6th? It's going to be a great day. We're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great. Talk to the chief. He knows about it. So right there, Rudy Giuliani has knowledge that something is about to happen on January 6th, before January 6th. Not only that, he knows specifically that they're going to the Capitol. Then he says, the chief, talk to the chief. He knows all about it. Now, when he says chief, in this case, that could be Mark Meadows or Donald Trump. I don't know in the hearing if it was specifically said that by chief it was meant Donald Trump, so I'm going to leave it at that. When Cassidy asked Mark Meadows, so by this it goes that by chief he meant chief of staff, Mark Meadows said, there's a lot going on, Cass. Things might get real bad on January 6th. I mean, I don't know what else is direct knowledge of something real bad is going to happen, except for saying, other than saying it's going to be real bad. And mind you, the depravity of Giuliani saying it's going to be great and Mark Meadows saying it's going to be bad. And, no surprises there that Cassidy was scared at that moment. And then she goes on to say that of the Director of National Intelligence, Director Ratcliffe, was concerned about January 6th would spiral out of control and be dangerous. Ms. Hutchinson remembers Oath Keepers and Proud Boys being mentioned when Rudy Giuliani was around, when it got closer to January 6th. By the way, this is all happening before January 6th, right? Keep in mind. So this whole criminal intent thing, that and overt acts, what are they doing? What are they saying? And match it up. And this knowledge of forethought that they knew something was going to happen before. And you can sort of assess that from just this, but we're not even like close. Then you get to the National Security Advisor calling Cassidy to talk to Mark Meadows about possible violence on January 6th. So there was not only the Director of National Intelligence, but it was also the National Security Advisor notified Mark Meadows about violence on the 6th. Now let's jump to the rally. Stop the Steal rally. It has been reported, and we've heard recording in the 6th hearing, that Secret Service, police officers, Capitol Police, they were all on their radios talking about people with weapons. It was an armed insurrection, everything from guns and knives, spears, bear sprays, and making spears out of flagpoles, AR-15s, and they were fastening spears at the ends of flagpoles. There's a recording of one of the police officers saying AR-15 on 14th and Independence. That's right there. It's just on AR-15 on 14th and Independence. I don't know why that haunts me. And when all of this was told, Mark Meadows was slouching on his couch and wasn't moved by it when Ms. Hutchinson told him this. After nudging, Mark says, "Have you talked to the president?" Ms. Hutchinson says, "Yeah, it's Tony Ornato, the deputy chief of staff at the time, who came in and told all these things were happening, not Cassidy. Cassidy was just there because she was an aide to Mark Meadows, and Mark Meadows wouldn't go anywhere without Cassidy. So it was kind of like his body woman. And after Tony said he had told Donald Trump about what was happening, Mark Meadows was like, "Oh, okay, well, whatever." Cassidy Hutchinson says Mark Meadows did not act on those concerns, and that Donald was furious because, wait for it, because of the crowd size. He didn't care about anything else. And when he was told that the reason why there were so many people who weren't going in was because there were thousands of people with weapons who didn't want to go through the metal detectors, whatever they're called, the mags, whatever, I don't even know what that is. It's a metal detector, I'm assuming. Donald said, "I don't fucking care that they have weapons. They are not here to hurt me. Take the fucking mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. They are not here to hurt me. Let my people in." If he would have said, "Let them in, they're not going to hurt anybody," that would have been different. But he said, "They're not here to hurt me." Let my people in. I mean, he had an army waiting for him outside of the Stop the Seal rally to then go over to the Capitol. And then Cassidy talks about how lawyers, White House lawyers, Mr. Hirschman uh, and Mr. Cipollone, them insisting that there not be combative language in the Stop the Seal rally, like fight for me, fight what they're doing, fight for the movement. They didn't want it to be combative. And White House attorney Cipollone said that they had serious concerns that if they went to the Capitol, which Donald wanted to go to the Capitol, and we'll get to it. Mr. Cipollone said, we're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen. Obstructing justice or defrauding the electoral count being some of the charges that Cassidy Hutchinson heard Mr. Cipollone say. So there you have the White House counsel telling Mark Meadows and people who were there that he was at that point, even before the insurrection had started, that they were going to be charged with obstructing justice and defrauding the electoral count. Now, then you have to sort of like stop and say at this point, I'm going to that. You look at the mountain of criminal intention and overt acts. You see the knowledge beforehand that they knew what was going to happen. That Donald knew that they weren't there to hurt him. So who were there? Who were they there to hurt, Donald? If you would have said they weren't there to hurt anybody, that would have been a completely different thing. And so we find out later on who he was going to hurt. Then we get to the insurrection. Kevin McCarthy calls Cassidy when he heard Donald was going to the Capitol and asked Cassidy, why did you lie to me? Figure it out. Don't come up here. He later on also says something to the effect of, what we're currently watching unfold is un-American. And then he went on to condemn the violence as it was happening. Kevin McCarthy did. None of these people, by the way, will come and talk to the committee under oath. They just won't do it. But they'll go to the media and they'll lie. They'll go to the press and they'll lie. The power of the oath is massive, because if you lie under oath, you can be taken into custody right there, or you can be charged. And they don't want to commit perjury, which carries a pretty significant sentence, and it's a felony. So I think it's a felony. Now, after the speech happened, Donald, I don't know what, there are overt acts which are nuanced, but Donald like clawing and fighting, Bobby Engel and in the Beast and just, it's just, because he wanted to lead his insurrection, that fat idiot traitor, he wasn't ashamed of it. I mean, he wanted to go there and he wanted to tell them, and he knew that these people were armed and he knew what was going to happen days ahead. And Mark Meadows knew about it. And he was just slouching and texting and watching what's happening on his phone with this ambivalence, nonfeasance. But it's not nonfeasance though, because he has a job. He's a chief of staff to the president of the United States. He's the boss of the cabinet. He was the one who could have stopped it. He did nothing. So at that point, he is not only derelict in his duty, he's a criminal who is part of a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government. So thank God, even people close to him who were on his side stopped him, and he didn't go to the Capitol and he went to the White House instead. He kept on saying when he got to the Capitol that he still wanted to go there. And he blamed Mark Meadows for not making that happen because he wanted to go on an off-the-record movement trip where no one else is told about it except for a very skeletal crew of Secret Service and other people. There's the press is not notified, and he wanted to go there and sort of spring this on everybody. And Mark couldn't make that happen. And to whatever credit you can give a traitor, he didn't really care that he couldn't do it. He wasn't like up in arms about it, from what Cassidy says. When he was told that there was no election fraud, that's when he went and threw the ketchup and all of that. And don't make a big deal about it, because he was angry and that was just his state of mind, and it shows. And they're going to make that the news. His sycophants are. I don't understand them, by the way. I don't understand these people. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they can be traitors so easily. I don't know how they think that lying is fashionable. I don't understand it. It's disgusting. It's depraved. It's treacherous. It's seditious. So Bill Barr came when he heard Bill Barr say that there was an election fraud. That's what that whole threw his lunch against the wall thing happened. And when he came and he said he was ready to, he was asking Donald Trump to accept his resignation, Donald Trump slammed the table and said, accept it. That's an overt act. You say to somebody there is no election fraud when that person wants to perpetuate that big lie, seditious conspiracy of the election fraud. And in order for you to continue to peddle that seditious lie, you fire the one person who can stop this from happening. Somebody who can, who's the chief legal officer of the country, mind you, not Donald's personal attorney. So there goes Bill Barr. And that's when the whole Jeffrey Clark and all these things come up. Mind you, we've had 5 hearings before this. There are many other people implicated. There's Eastman and Clark, and there's Bill Barr talking about Donald knowing, him telling Donald directly there's no election fraud. There's all of that stuff. This is just one hearing from one person. Then Ms. Hutchinson testified that Roger Stone was in DC at rallies on January 5th. He was photographed with Oath Keepers who were part of Roger Stone's security detail. There have been 11 Oath Keepers indicted for seditious conspiracy. 3 of them, Joshua James, Brian Ulrich, William Wilson, have pled guilty to seditious conspiracy. And they were Roger Stone's bodyguards. When he was asked by the committee, he pled the 5th. Mind you, he was convicted of a crime unrelated to January 6th, and he was pardoned by Donald Trump. So was Mike Flynn. He was pardoned by Donald Trump, and they were both called upon by Donald Trump on January 5th. Mark Meadows was told to contact them. Cassidy Hutchinson also testified that Meadows intended to go to the conversation, to the war room at the Willard Hotel, and he didn't end up going. He dialed in instead. So he was there. The meeting of the minds in the seditious war room of the Willard Hotel. Obviously, Flynn pled the fifth. Mike Flynn, when asked by Liz Cheney, do you believe in a peaceful transition of power in America, said he pleads the fifth. This person is still part of the military. He should be recalled by the Department of Justice and court-martialed, and then he needs to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So then we get to why he wanted weapons and why he wanted this army there. Because when Mike Pence didn't go along with him, when the hang Mike Pence chants came up, and Miss Hutchinson was, at that point, I would imagine, just going insane inside. Meadows said to Cassidy Hutchinson, to Pat Cipollone, because Cassidy was just there, mind you. This is Pat Cipollone barreling through the hallway and going to say that they're saying hang Mike Pence to Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows says to Mr. Cipollone, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong. Now, Donald is never going to admit to saying that. If he's under oath, he'll plead the fifth, of course. But the way you know it, he said it, is because Mark says to Pat, and Pat heard him, means Pat heard Donald Trump say it as well. So both Pat Cipollone and Mark Meadows heard Donald Trump say that Mike Pence deserves it, and that Donald doesn't think that that the people who are chanting hang Mike Pence are doing anything wrong. Then Ms. Hutchinson goes on to say that she felt frustrated, disappointed, and it felt personal. She was sad because she is a career Republican. I mean, she's a Republican. Her resume was in the introduction of when the hearing started. There's anything else about her. And she talked about she was all those things that Donald had done for the country. I mean, whatever they were in her mind, she just couldn't reconcile what was happening. And she says, as an American, I was disgusted. It was unpatriotic. It was un-American. We were watching the Capitol building deface over a lie. Hard to digest, knowing what I had been hearing down the hall, meaning the White House West Wing, just a couple of doors down from the Oval Office. Ms. Hutchinson testified that Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows asked for pardons. Asking for a pardon is an admission of guilt. She overheard talks about blaming Antifa and BLM. and deflect and blame others. But then slowly, when he realized there was no way of hiding it, he became more neutral. And I want to remind everybody that when Congress reconvened, the first speech Matt Gaetz gave on the House floor, he blamed Antifa and Black Lives Matter for what happened outside and what was still ongoing. That correlation is not coincidental. And there are going to be others. Everybody who said that understood that inside the White House and outside the White House, there was this deflection campaign of blaming Antifa and BLM when they weren't even there. And they couldn't, that was just one of the most laughable things they could have said. And it didn't fly at all. Ms. Hutchinson then goes on to say that Ivanka tried to stop the violence. She's complicit. I'm sorry. Laura Ingraham texted in saying, this is hurting all of us. He's destroying his legacy. We lose all credibility against Antifa and BLM. Don Jr. said he's got to condemn this shit ASAP. Kevin McCarthy, what we are currently watching unfold is un-American. He went on to condemn the violence. Sean Hannity warns Donald Trump that the 25th Amendment is real. Mind you, every single one, and none of these people, other than Ivanka Trump, have cooperated with the January 6th committee. And Ivanka told the truth at the committee, and she has been corroborated by what Cassidy Hutchinson said, that she was indeed trying to stop the violence. So you have to give her that. And the last thing, which is a cherry on Donald's seditious Sunday, is witness tampering. The committee has knowledge and information to prove that Donald's people are currently intimidating witnesses and people who have cooperated with the January 6th committee. That is a federal crime. And they're doing it right now. And when you read the text that they posted in the committee, go to their Twitter account, go to their website, you'll read them. It sounds like a mob boss warning through somebody else, because Donald is a coward and he's only his truest self around very few people, because that's the only way he can limit his liability. So that is a summary. And I want you to go and think about what I said before. Do you see anywhere where they had knowledge beforehand of what was going to happen? Do you see anywhere or hear them say anything that matches up with them doing and committing the overt acts of seditious conspiracy, of the insurrection, of having an armed insurrection, of knowing that something was going to happen beforehand? You know, all through this week, we're going to hear the right wing attack and joke about what attack Cassidy Hutchinson's credibility, and talk about that all we found out was the tantrum Donald had in his beast. We don't know anything specifically about that. To my mind, the only reason why that information would be relevant is because that is literally a baby tantrum, overt act of being literally a part of what he had orchestrated and dragging the entire White House staff with him. And people around him realized that they were actually going to get dragged in with him, like Pat Cipollone said. And so they stopped that. But stopping him from going there, him not being able to go there, doesn't mean that he didn't commit the crime of having planned it all. So, overt acts, knowledge of forethought, criminal intent, and then you go to the elements of seditious conspiracy. And you can go to my first warning from November 10th, 2020, that he was planning his seditious conspiracy. And guess what? He was. And my warning from December 12th of the same thing, and warning from December 15th of the same thing. And then my continuing warnings about what is happening. It's happening, people. If you don't wake up and start defending your republic, you don't deserve the rights that you have. You don't deserve it. We don't deserve this republic if we can't keep it. So entitled, we are so entitled to everything. We want the news right now. We want the fad. We don't want to have more than 2 minutes. We don't have more than 3 minutes to learn about our Constitution. We don't have time because we have so many things to do. Do you want to become Afghanistan? Do you want to become Saudi Arabia? You want to become a country like Russia? Or even Venezuela? Do you want to become these countries where people don't have rights? Where if you talk, you are killed? Where you don't have the right to protest? Like Syria and Iraq? Iraq is much better now than it was 10 years ago. Is that what you want, though? Like, those are the countries you want to live in? And to all of the MAGA people, if you are still believing in the horse shit that Donald Trump is peddling and buying his shit, go ahead and buy it and be duped by him. But if you believe what he's saying, those lies, and you take an action, you are committing a federal crime. You are going against your Constitution, and you are a traitor who will be remembered by your community and people all around you as a traitor. You think this is a joke? It's not a joke. It stopped being a joke when he denied the will of the American people. You're going to deflect with things like Hunter Biden and the one special attorney, appointed attorney by Bill Barr, who failed in prosecuting whoever they're prosecuting to deflect from what's happening. Talk about the Russia collusion hoax. No, it's not a hoax. The Mueller report is still not, the information in it is still valid information that can be used. If there's connection to what happened with the seditious conspiracy, it's all there. Mueller never said there wasn't anything. He said there was an Office of Legal Counsel memo that restricted and didn't allow a sitting president from being prosecuted. Fine. And now I think the statute of limitations may have passed. I don't know if that report actually, if they made a prosecution decision, if they looked into that investigation. But that doesn't stop the right from saying that there was nothing there. Just like tomorrow, they're going to talk about the ketchup on the wall and the tantrum and say that that's all that was discovered. That's not true. These people need to be talking under oath, but they won't do it. Why not? Because they are lying to you in front of the TV. And these things will affect your paycheck. This will affect the roof over your head and the food. You think inflation is bad now? And you think Biden brought this inflation? You don't think COVID had anything to do with it? And you think whatever happens with COVID stays with COVID in 2020 and 2021? You don't think the economy comes back 2, 3, 4, 5 years later 2001, September 2001, 9/11 happened. And 7 years after that, there was an economic collapse. You think that wasn't connected? Bush signed TARP into law. The collapse started during Bush. We were stretched to the teeth, and then he just passed it over to Obama. This is not about Republican, Democrat either. But what Donald did and did not do with COVID has had repercussions that we are feeling to this day. What Donald did with compromising our national security with Russia and Putin in Helsinki weakened us not only in the global stage, but also from a national security perspective. We don't know the half of the documents that were taken from the White House out to Mar-a-Lago that the FBI now has. We don't know a scintilla. This is just little taste of what we know, what happened. And you still want to support this traitor? Why? Because he's racist? Because you think white people are better? You're not. You're just like the rest of us. Get over it. You lost this fight with the Confederacy. Hitler lost this fight. You're going to lose the fight because the people who don't see the world your way are legion. And we are far outnumber you. And we yet don't want to come out and take your rights away. That should tell you something. And if your only explanation to all of that is that it was rigged, you need to learn to discern between a lie and facts. People who are election workers, people who are in office to do a ministerial duty of certifying elections, they are under oath. They have a duty to their office that they cannot break. And that's why the levers were pulled and Donald wasn't allowed to go to the Capitol. That's why Mike Pence stopped and didn't go with Donald Trump. Not because he necessarily cared about any of the Constitution and the bigger idea. Maybe he did. I don't know his true intentions. But he acted according to the law and acted to safeguard the Constitution and to keep his oath of office. Donald broke his oath of office. Donald attacked Mike Pence. And that, I suspect, would bring up questions of treason under USC 18, Section 2381. That is it levying war against the United States if somebody attacks, takes steps to attack and hang the Vice President of the United States? Regardless of whether the person doing it is the Vice President's boss. You see why it's unprecedented. You think it's a joke. Come on, people. You can hate me for not being white, but don't hate your country because some fat old traitor told you to. Try to look at other sides. Just go to even The Hill or the Wall Street Journal. Even they provide some level of truth. If you stick to Newsmax and Fox and Alex Jones and Steve Bannon, you don't hear the other side. And guess what? People from the left, people like me, we actually go over to Fox and we actually go over to Newsmax and listen to what Steve Bannon and Alex, we listen to what these people have to say. We hear them. And then we assess it against what we know as facts and we cross-reference it with other opposing facts. And we see what the law says and people under oath are doing. And then we make a judgment for ourselves. We are not spoon-fed the facts. We pick up on it and we corroborate and we come out and we tell you the truth. For what? People, I haven't made a dime off of any of this. Why do you think I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for the past 2 years? Because of my rights, because of your goddamn rights too. So if you don't believe in what's happening in the January 6th committee, in the FBI, by people who are under oath doing their jobs, you don't deserve the rights that come under the Constitution. You don't deserve to be American. So get the fuck out of my country. I've gone on for long enough. Take care.